denied a raise and moved to overnight position and told, "Don't care how you do your job, just do it." Okay, I will. I used to work in hotels in a ski town in Colorado. Very expensive, but the quality of life, very common saying there. I had started at a new hotel and was making $10 an hour living with my brother in a two-bedroom place that was 700 square feet. Rent was half our income. When the slow season approached, I was told I would have to move to night audit 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., or risk being let go. The problem was I lived 3 miles from the hotel and took the bus to get there since I couldn't afford a car. The bus did not run at night or early morning, so I would be walking 6 miles a day in several inches to a foot or more in snow. So I asked for a raise. They said they'd get back to me but need an answer, and I need the job, so okay, I'll work night audit. I start the next week as an auditor, and while I'm being trained I learn that I'm also losing a day. The other auditor works 3 days and I'll be working for days, not 5. That's $320 a month hit to my income before taxes. So I'll need to be making $12.50 an hour to keep making the same thing with the cut hours. But I decide I'm going to ask for $14. I complete training and meet with the GM. He asks how I'm lacking it, and I start off with my concerns. I tell him I wasn't told I'd lose a day, and with having to walk 6 miles a day in the snow, I was going to need a raise to $14 an hour. He let out an audible sigh and tells me he can easily hire someone for this position for $10 an hour and to take it or leave it. I knew it would be very hard to find a job in the winter when everything closes up, so I stayed. As I walked out of his office, he says, "I don't care how you do your job, just do it." Okay, I will. You see, this job was easy. It was 7 hours of me doing absolutely nothing and 1 hour of actual work, which gave me plenty of time to find shortcuts. The software we used allowed us to import scripts that you downloaded from the developer's site. One such script was a way to make my job literally one click. The problem was it was $500 a year license for it. Obviously, I wouldn't propose to my GM a way to eliminate my job, but there was a free trial on every script for 7 days. I remember at the time you get around paywalls on news websites by going into the web console and simply removing the paywall from the source code. I decided to see if this was something I could do with this script. And what do you know? I downloaded it and opened the script in a text editor. And the only thing making this script a trial was a line that said licensee XP and had the date set 7 days out from when I downloaded it. I changed the computer's date to 8 days from now and tried to run the script in our software and got a notification that said the free trial had ended. So I changed it back and set the expiration date to 2050. This took my manual job of 1 hour and made it 3 to 5 minutes. All I had to do was specify a date range and it check off what reports I wanted done and printed and click start. That was it. I always manually reviewed everything just in case. But that wasn't it. We had a kitchen where we made breakfast and dinner for the guests. Evening shift got free dinner, and morning shift got free breakfast. I didn't get anything. They eventually decided to have the auditors set up breakfast so the kitchen crew didn't have to come in as early. I asked if we got free breakfast and was told no, despite setting up everything to make their jobs easier. I should also note that we had to clean any dishes left from dinner that the kitchen didn't get to despite not even getting any dinner. But I had the kitchen all to myself for 6 hours, so I started making myself dinner around 1 a.m., whatever I wanted. The only limits were the ingredients in the kitchen, and since I was responsible for dishes from other shifts, I never left any evidence behind. I no longer had to buy food to bring to work. I later realized that I could put dirty dishes back in the return bin since it was covered, and the breakfast crew never checked to see if any dirty dishes were in it, and the very few times they did check, they assumed dinner forgot to check before leaving. I always cleaned up the dishes I used making myself food out of fairness, though. So now my job no longer requires me to do dishes, I get free food, and all I have to do is remember the date and click a button to do my actual job. What am I to do with all this time? I watched so many shows. I played online games on my laptop. I started learning Spanish. The GM did say he didn't care how I did my job, just do it. And so I did. I did eventually decide to move away for a much better job far away and had to give up the comfy life. I trained my replacement the way I was doing things, including the script, and did not teach him the manual way. Before I left, though, I decided to change the trial date to 1 week out. 2 days after my last day, the front desk manager texts me and tells me that the other auditor was just fired for making racist remarks to a guest, and that guest recorded him, so he was fired once the GM got in. He asked if I could come back until they got someone else and said they'd pay me $15 an hour. Unfortunately, I was leaving in 2 days, so there was no way. I got a call from the GM at about 5 a.m. the day of the expiration, and he asked about this free trial thing and why wasn't the new guy trained how to do the audit properly, who was apparently working 7 days a week since no one else knew the audit except the new guy and of course me. I reminded him that he told me he didn't care how I did my job, just do it. So I did exactly that. I could tell he wanted to yell, but he held back. He then demanded I come back and fix it or he'll have to take legal action. I told him I was already at my new place 2,000 miles away, but I would happily do it for airfare, a free room, free meals while I'm there, and $10,000. That was when he lost it and I hung up. He texted me after saying he was contacting the lawyers and that I fucked up and prepare to face the consequences. That was 5 years ago and I haven't heard anything from him since. I did eventually go back to that town a few months ago to see my mom, and ran into the front desk manager from that place, who is a really nice guy. He told me the GM was caught fucking the head housekeeper in his office by his wife one day, later divorced him. The 19-year-old girl working the front desk in the mornings later filed sexual harassment charges against him, and he resigned after that. The AGM jumped ship after that. The GM was also a coach for a baseball team and hit a kid with a metal bat, breaking his arm, and got his shit rocked by the dad. Not sure what happened to him after that. The front desk manager now runs the place as GM, and he's made sure that he, the AGM, and the FDM are all trained to do the audit.
Wash your half. Have 3 older sisters, and the middle one, Pat, passed away a few years ago. I was thinking about her this weekend and remembered a story that I believe fits here. When we were kids, we had chores that we had to do around the house. The oldest 2, Judy and Pat, had to do the dinner dishes. This was back when dishwashers were a luxury item most families couldn't even dream of. Judy, being the oldest, would try to manipulate things so she got off light. Generally, this meant Pat would have to wash and rinse while Judy would dry and put away. The washing, and particularly scrubbing of pre-Teflon pots and pans, was a real task, and finally Pat complained enough that Mom and Dad stepped in and said the work needed to be equally divided. If one washed and rinsed one night, the other would the next night. Well, Judy didn't like that, so she offered an alternative. Each of them would wash, dry, and put away half of the dishes. That was deemed acceptable. So the first night Judy went first, doing barely enough to qualify as half and leaving all the heavy scrubbing to Pat. The next night Pat went first, and the malicious compliance began. With Mom watching, Pat carefully washed and dried exactly half of the dishes, the bottoms of all the plates, the handles of all the utensils, and the outsides of all the bowls, glasses, pots, and pans. When she finished, Mom smiled and agreed that she'd done her half and sent for Judy, who had to wash all the tops and inside. And if some soap and water got on the part Pat had cleaned, well, that was Judy's fault. She had to clean what she messed up. After that, they did the dishes together, and alternated who washed and who dried. TLDRO, come on, this is really short. Take a minute, sheesh. Edit, holy crap, never expected this to blow up like this. Thank you all for the awards, comments, and kind wishes. We lost Pat to breast cancer at 70. The best thing you can do in your life is see your doctor regularly, and take good care of yourself.
One electronic item per tray, sure, no problem. Long-time lurker, first-time poster, English not first language, you guys know the drill. This happened yesterday, as I was returning home from a 2-week trip to Germany. The final leg of the flight departed from Paris, where I had this lovely interaction with the agents whom, despite me knowing are not TSA, I still refer to as TSA in my mind. While going through security in the airport, I know the drill: belts off, jacket off, take the laptop off my bag. So I submit to the X-ray for trays, one with my carry-on, one with my laptop by itself, one with my belt, watch and jacket, and one with my personal item, think the fanny pack. I'm randomly selected for further screening. I have a Lebanese last name and a beard. I'm always randomly selected for further screening, and the agent berates me for putting all my electronics together. I point out that I took my laptop out of the bag, as per standard procedure, and the agent says, screaming at me, mind you, that that is not enough. I must take out every electronic device from my carry-on and put each of them in an individual tray, and I'm being sent to the back of the line to do so. Here comes the malicious compliance. There are two things this French TSA agent is unaware of. The first thing is that I'm a videographer by trade, and I was in Europe to cover an event, Spiel, with video footage and interviews. The second thing is that Air France changed my flight times, so my 2 hours layover became a 10 hours layover, which I'm not particularly happy about. So I'm being sent back to the end of the line, and I have to submit each electronic item individually. Sure, no complaints from me. To camera bodies, 1 drone, 1 GoPro. For lenses, 9 batteries, and to lavalier microphones later. There is no more space in the treadmill. People behind me are complaining they will miss their flight because I'm taking so long. Nothing I can do, I'm just following the orders I received. And at this point, I only unpacked my photography vest and fanny pack. The treadmill starts moving, some space clears up to put additional trays, and that's when I open my carry-on bag. Then, I'm in Europe for work. I didn't bring any nice clothes or shoes or anything. All my personal effects are in the checked-in luggage. The carry-on is filled exclusively with electronics. I still have 4 microphones, 2 recorders, lights, additional lenses, battery chargers, video monitors, audio monitors, drone controllers. Once I open my carry-on, it's very clear for everyone within eyesight that I'm not even 1/3 of the way done. 1 electronic per tray. So I'll just occupy this entire checkpoint by myself then. The people behind me in line are literally jumping and screaming about their missed flight, to the point that the security agents leave their posts to control the line. Someone in a non-uniform suit appears and talks to the agent who sent me to the back of the line. And that's when the unthinkable happened. The agent comes to me and says there would be no need for me to continue separating my electronics, and I could just submit my entire carry-on bag as a single item, and they'd examine it further if it seemed necessary. Are you sure? I asked, because it's no bother at all. I can keep unpacking here all day long. They insist it's not necessary, but I still have over 20 trays at this point occupying the treadmill. I go through the metal detector. I spend some minutes recovering and repicking everything, and based on the amount of fuming passengers, I like to think I contributed to Charles de Gaulle reviewing their stance on X-raying individual electronics.
Check out my other incredible videos.